Wow, do we have an incredible amount of information to go over. I'm going to tell you about the history of Billy and Tommy in the comics as kids, in the comics as teenagers and adults, and what I think that this means for the MCU going forward. I even have a new theory as to what's going to happen with the twins in WandaVision. Oh, I think it has potential. All right, so welcome. There are, as you've guessed it, major spoilers in this video, not just for what's happened in WandaVision so far, but what could potentially happen going forward. You're a responsible adult. Bow out if and when you need to. Now, I don't think a lot of you know this, but in WandaVision episode 3, you just witnessed a historic event, the birth of probably the most popular LGBT character in all of comics. Sorry, Tommy. Support Tommy. Tommy's but a footnote here, but maybe the MCU can change that. And that's right. Wiccan is even more popular than Batwoman. Batwoman, it's a shame what happened to Batwoman as she transitioned to live action, and I hope that the MCU not only does a better job with Billy, aka Wiccan, but it's, I hope people are more open to it. I think that Batwoman in some ways has been a little unfairly targeted, a little bit like what you saw with Captain Marvel, and I would hate for, Billy has such a popular fan base, like I pity whoever goes after Billy, aka Wiccan, especially if Kevin Feige casts it just right. Now, yes, the MCU is set to introduce an LGBT superhero and his partner in Eternals, which is somewhat fast approaching. But Wiccan, this is a bigger deal. Wiccan is a major front and center hero in the comics who is one half of an LGBT couple where both members are extremely powerful and connected to the rest of the MCU. We're talking power players, especially lately. The comics have leveled up Hulkling in a major way. But not Speed. Speed is also an LGBT superhero, by the way. He's bisexual. But the Marvel Comics has just never figured out what to do with Tommy, which, interestingly, is similar to how they've never quite figured out what to do with his uncle and fellow speedster, Pietro, aka Quicksilver. Quicksilver has had some interesting storylines over the year with the Inhumans, a family that he married into, but overall, they couldn't even figure out what to do with him in the MCU. Although it's rumored he's coming back in WandaVision in some way or another. We'll see. I don't know. There's been conflicting rumors. Once you hear my theory, I think maybe that voiceover actor who might have tipped something off maybe made a mistake. Let's see. We've known a lot of actors to lie lately when it comes to what characters they're playing, etc. All right, and not like in a malicious way, but just, they're trying to maintain some of the mystery. And it's fun. We're having a great time. All right, so we're talking about the twins here, right? Not Quicksilver. And as I've said from the very beginning of WandaVision, it seems that one of the reasons, if not the main reason, that this outside force is controlling Wanda is to get her to have children, right? Children were mentioned extensively in episode 1 and 2, leading Wanda to subconsciously make herself pregnant. And as one of you pointed out with this week's episode, in episode 3, even the lamp in Dottie's home features twins, and the newspaper headline is also a reference to twins. So again, first I'm going to go over Billy and Tommy's history in the comics at birth, which will probably pertain more to what's happening in WandaVision. Then I'm going to walk you through their history in the comics as their own characters, which will, I think, influence where they're headed in the MCU, what's coming up. And then I'll talk about how that will likely come about and how the Young Avengers are assembling right now, before your very eyes. All right, so right from the start, these twins have been at the center of the drama. Wanda can't create life out of nowhere, which, by the way, begs the question, how the heck is Vision back then, right? Put a pin in that for later. Later this season, there are rumors swirling that Vision's return has to do with his own twin in the comics, Simon Williams. But it's important to remember that Wanda can't create life, because in the comics, when it comes to her children, she created them by unknowingly using shards of the soul of a demon that were loose, think about Horcruxes with Harry Potter, right? To make Billy and Tommy. Now, in the comics, that demon worked for Mephisto, but the MCU could cut out the middle person and have Mephisto just appear here, as is rumored to be the case with WandaVision. And there seems to even be a reference to Mephisto in the Loki trailer, too. And as anyone who knows who watches Sabrina, witches get their powers from the devil. And we have at least 2 potential witches here in WandaVision. I believe there are more, which I think we'll find out pretty soon in the series. As I pointed out to you in my breakdown this week, Agnes's brooch, Agnes is really playing Agatha Harkness, basically, from the comics, but her brooch features 3 figures, 2 at least of which I believe are witches. And there's been, Catherine Hahn has been spotted on set filming stuff from the Salem witch trial. So very interesting. Now, back in the comics, the demon wanted the pieces of his soul back, and he reabsorbed Wanda's twins, which almost drove her insane, but Agatha Harkness wiped Wanda's memory of the twins. But when she remembered them years later, she went insane, and that led to Avengers, I believe Avengers Disassembled, and then House of M, and the No More Mutants line, etc., which is basically the storyline that you're seeing now. So, as you can see, WandaVision is speeding up Wanda's timetable in every possible way. Now, here's my theory. My new theory. What if Hydra, or maybe just Agnes and some other witches here, are working alone? I think Hydra has gone to these witches for help. But what if the whole point of Wanda having children is to give Mephisto human form, a human form with power? So he'll absorb the twins, or just take over one of them to walk the earth, to be unleashed. Oh, that's very Rosemary's Baby a little bit, right? And Evan Peters, I gotta say, does look a little like Wiccan. His playing Quicksilver in the past just going to be a fun little nod, a little wink from Kevin Feige that he played Quicksilver over, in Fox's X-Men. But, here he is therefore related to Wanda, but maybe in a different way. And maybe it's Mephisto who rips open the multiverse, and Wanda has to try and stop him and maybe get back her children, or works with him. I think that may be what we see happen. Because why else would you bring Mephisto in here, right? Why can't Wanda just go insane by herself and cause all this havoc? Why do you need to bring in the devil? Well, if you read the Vision and Scarlet Witch 12-issue miniseries, you'll understand a little bit more. But there has to be a reason that Mephisto is being brought in here. Anyway, speaking of fast forwarding, years later in the comics, it was discovered that because Wanda's power and love for her children was so great, Mephisto was unable to hold on to those fragments of his soul, and they escaped and were reincarnated in 2 new boys being born at the time to 2 different families. One in New York City, Billy Kaplan grew up in New York City, and Tommy Shepard grew up in New Jersey. It's a little Joseph Campbell there, and that they didn't learn they were brothers or any of their backstory. They were reincarnated, basically, where their souls came from, again until they were teenagers, when they joined the Young Avengers. They discovered all this after they joined the Young Avengers. Oh, what a coincidence. They just both happened to be recruited. That stuff happens all the time. How did Luke and Leia, cross paths the way they did? All right, again, Tommy is a speedster like his uncle, while Billy has the powers of his mother, only instead of red energy, his energy glows blue. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be great. It's a little Sleeping Beauty, Flora and Merryweather there. Now, it's worth noting that Billy and Tommy and their reincarnated origins were co-created by LGBT comic book writer Alan Heinberg, who co-created the Young Avengers overall and wrote the first Wonder Woman movie. I love it. I would love for him to come back and work on the character for Marvel, for the MCU. Now, in the comics, again, as I was saying, Tommy has really not done very much. I mean, at one point, he did go with his brother looking for Wanda so they could, meet their mother. She was living in Latveria at the time with Dr. Doom. Long story. And I have to say, in the comics, the family of Vision, Wanda, and the twins have never really reassembled. Oh, tear. All right, but Billy really has a family. It's a little bit like, Friends or something. Billy is very close with the Young Avengers. I think that when I recently read The Wedding, we're going to get to the wedding in a moment, but I believe that's who showed up, basically. All right, so Billy, he does a lot. Because of the nature of his powers, he's had dealings with Thor, Loki, and Asgard. He hangs out with Loki, actually, a lot, although he does also both Loki and Kid Loki. In an alternate future, he's become the new Sorcerer Supreme. And oh yeah, as I just said, he had a huge wedding recently. That's right, Billy's longtime boyfriend, now husband, is Hulkling. It has nothing to do with the Hulk. I think he just was a fan of the Hulk or something. Now, he's actually a Kree Skrull hybrid. This is extremely important. The secret love child of Kree hero Mar-Vell, who gave Captain Marvel her powers in the comics, and a Skrull princess. Now, in the movies, in the MCU, Mar-Vell was played by Annette Bening, but maybe she hooked up with the Skrull prince. Maybe she was involved some other way. Basically, a Kree and a Skrull just have to have gotten together in the MCU to create Hulkling. Now, because the Kree and the Skrulls hate each other, Hulkling was hidden on Earth. He was secreted away, also like Sleeping Beauty, interestingly enough, and he hid as a human thanks to his shape-shifting ability as Teddy Altman. Billy and Teddy meet and fall in love when they join the Young Avengers, and recently as adults, they've had a wonderful relationship. They know off and on, they've been together forever. But recently, when they became adults, the Kree and Skrull tried to reunite. They were, to become one. Now, there were some shenanigans behind the scenes. It was not a very good crossover event. But basically, the Kree and the Skrull said, we're tired of fighting. We want to become one empire. So they recruit Teddy as their new ruler since he's a mix of both their races. And so both the Kree and the Skrull will accept him as their emperor. And at the end of the Empire Saga, Emperor Hulkling and Wiccan got married in space, with Wiccan serving as the wizard of the court, making him like a space Merlin. How cool is that? That's wonderful. I think that's great. Now, yes, Kree, Skrull, those are becoming even bigger players in the MCU going forward. So, as I said, this is all very important. Since all the other Young Avengers are popping up like daisies, we've got Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, Cassie Lang, recast, but she's returning, and Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, Miss America and Doctor Strange 2, Riri Williams and Kamala Khan getting their whole own TV shows on Disney+, the twins now on WandaVision, who are obviously growing up quite fast, and it's rumored Patriot will show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Kid Loki and Loki. There's even a rumor. I've heard I think that the Patriot and Kid Loki are like almost definitely true, but I'm hearing a slight rumor that Miles Morales will be swinging into the MCU in Spider-Man 3. Now, all those other Young Avengers are here, so obviously Hulkling is probably on his way as well. Most likely going to show up in Secret Invasion, the Disney Plus series. Maybe the Kree and the Skrulls are looking for this love child. That could be really interesting. That would make him make them a main focus of Secret Invasion. But really, if Billy's here, definitely Hulkling is on his way. You can't have one without the other. Both will be hugely important as to who is cast and likely big breakout roles for LGBT actors. We'll see if Kevin Feige decides to cast LGBT talent. Do you think that he needs to? I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, it's most important to have Wiccan and LGBT fans weigh in on this. But I think that it would be nice. And you've seen, he's done some of that with Eternals, but then at the same time, he also has not. So, we'll see what happens. Well, we'll see. They should be cast soon, hopefully. Or maybe it's Evan Peters is one of them. All right. So will the Young Avengers assemble all together in a movie or a Disney Plus series? Last I heard, Kevin Feige himself was unsure as to what he was going to do. But I think it's not hard to believe that they could eventually be the Avengers, not just the Young Avengers, for Feige's Phase 5 or 6. I'll be curious to see if these characters will be as popular. I think they'll be popular in a niche way, but will they be as popular as the current Avengers? Let's see. I'll be very interested. Young Avengers has always been more of a niche comic, which is why I say that. But I'm excited. What do you think? Which of the Young Avengers are you the most excited to see in live action? And what do you think of Billy and Tommy? Knowing this history will definitely help you be able to better decipher the clues in WandaVision and beyond. And what do you think of my theory? All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.